All right, in the previous substance baking tutorial, I baked out the sword, and one thing that I realized is I still had smoothing groups on my low poly. So I'm going to go through, make sure I have my low poly selected and hide unselected. And I went through and I did a pass with NURBS, and so I really don't need these high poly. So I'm going to come out here, zoom out. I'm going to select the whole thing, and under polygon smoothing groups, I'm going to clear all and just assign one smoothing group. All right, so the sword has this entirely, the entire thing is smooth. I'm going to come ahead and just export him out again. And I should be able to go back to that same sword textures. I'm going to overwrite that low poly version, say yes, and say OK. Now I'm going to come over here to Substance, and I'm going to do File, or I'm going to do Edit, and under Project Configuration, I can come into Select, and I could select that low poly sword, and click OK. Now that is going to go through, it's going to change it up a little bit, and because of that I got to go through and I'm going to rebake my mesh maps. So let's go through, we'll bake those out again. Alright, so here it goes, it's baking them out. All the folders and everything we have over on the side are retaining, but look at how instead now, because we went through, we removed those smoothing groups, now instead of having the hard edges, we're getting that softer edge that we had set up with the NURBS, right? And so while it's still, you know, kind of faceted here, that's because of the way we did our NURBS, but see how we get a nicer edge in all these other spots, okay? And that's due to us going through and defining those areas with the NURBS, so that's why it's starting to look better, right? And so the edging that's coming is from this normal map, right? That's what's causing that. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to actually open up the folder. I'm going to get rid of some of these. I'm just going to select it and hit delete. I'm keeping the masks, and really all I'm going through is getting rid of those basic materials. I'm going to come down here to Smart Materials. Now, I've gone through to Substance Share and I've downloaded some smart materials. The ones at school probably are going to be the most basic ones that come with the software. And so if you don't have the exact ones I have, you can just use ones that are similar to the ones that I have. So first off, I'm going to go through to where the handle was. I'm going to find a nice leather, because I believe I got a nice leather one that I've downloaded. This leather brown vintage, leather stylized, leather weathered. Let's throw this stylized one on there. Right, and so it's still a relatively basic look, but it'll work. Although it's getting a weird streak on the side, so maybe that's a bad idea. There we go. This has some nice tooth to it. We'll use that. I think that'll be, let's be honest, it's the least interesting part of this anyways. Alright, minimize it. Now we'll go up to where the handle is. Let's see if I got a nice metal for that. I think this old brass, I think, might be pretty cool. So I'll pull that over. There we go. And so now you can see where those, I'm going to expand this so you can kind of take a look. These smart materials are a combination of materials, masks, things called smart masks that go through and based on the surface of the model that you bake out, generate all these nice, interesting features to it. Now you could come in here and you see if I click on base, I'm going to find my properties, right, and there's probably some stuff I could go through and change. Let's see, advanced. Look at that, there's a brass color, so I could go through and actually change that brass color to make it a little bit more blue, a little bit more saturated. And now it starts to get a little bit more like our Master Sword. So, right, it's still got a little dust. There's lots of other elements I could go through. I could turn these off or work to tune them. Or I could turn that off or actually just click on this dust. And if I look for the parameters again, scroll through until I find kind of the base color, and again I can work to change that, right? Change those different aspects, right? And so smart materials are things you can go through and work to change. As I said, you may not have the exact ones I have. You could go to Substance Share and download them. All right, I'm going to come up here to the blade, and let's look at what our options are for blades. Hey, look, I have a sword metal. Why don't we throw that on there? There we go. And see what it's doing is it's taking that edge, it's making that edge pop out a little bit more. And that may be what you want, it may not be what you want. You could go through and find a different one. There's a weapon metal. Let's throw that on there. It's probably not the type of weapon metal we're looking for. Oh, definitely not. So we'll remove that. And I think we'll do, let's throw steel medieval. How's that going to look? There we go. That's kind of fun. What's great thing about Substance is you could try these out, and then you can, as you get more comfortable working with it, you can work with the generators to create your own smart materials, or go back and work to find others. Lots of people will go through and upload their own smart materials, and you go through and double check, kind of look at what they did. Try them out. Let's try this leather damaged on the handle. It's a little bit better looking. So there we go. There's this newer version, which I think you'll agree looks better as it's baked out, because a couple different things we did. Going into our sword and giving it all one smoothing group, then all the details, those edges, that all came out from our subdivision version. So we'll just save this, and after we save it, we'll export out our textures again. Okay, and if we go back to that folder, we can see here's our base colors. I'm going to double click to open that up. There's our base color. There's the normal, and then this is our what's called the occlusion, roughness, and metallic. And these are 3 different maps that are all packed together. This is something that you would use inside Unreal. It's not something that you would see in Max. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to actually delete these old ones. And then I'm going to rename these sword underscore BC. Just select the front part. Rename the normal. I'm going to delete the old occlusion, roughness, and metallic. And I actually like to call it AO for ambient occlusion. That's what it's called when it goes into Substance. It makes it a little bit easier to see. So, sorry about that. Took a quick drink of water. What you would do inside 3ds Max then is you would open up the material editor. I have my low poly selected here. Here's its material. I could go in there, and really, if I take this texture, I'm going to click and drag it to diffuse, right click, and say show realistic material in viewport, minimize it. And now you can see your model with the texture on it. Now, you'll notice it does not look like it does inside a Substance. That's because the way that Substance handles its materials is radically different than 3ds Max. Max is a standard renderer. Substance is PBR, which is photo-based rendering. So you can see it with the diffuse in here for sure. You can even plug in the normal, but a lot of the other things like the metal is not going to look like the metal in here, a lot of the other elements. So really, you can plug your diffuse in to see it. That'll be helpful for reworking tiling or anything like that, or UVs. But really, in order to see it actually looking proper, you'll need to load it into a PBR-based renderer. So that's it for that.